Hour number 2 of the lunch break here on KDUS AM 1060. We've got a list, a Monday list. Can't you tell we're running out of ideas on a Monday for the week where there's nothing going on? Doing a list on a Monday?
Could be our only, or could not be our only list this week.
We already have a list planned for tomorrow's show. There probably will be a list on Wednesday's show. So that's coming up in about a half hour from now. The top 5 players that we think are breakout candidates for the Arizona Cardinals in 2025. That's coming up, like I said, a half hour from now. Want to start hour number 2 of the program, diving back into the Arizona Diamondbacks, who over the weekend lost 2 of 3 to the Los Angeles Angels. While not technically eliminated, while not technically saying anything public about waving the white flag and becoming sellers and moving all of these pieces, that felt like the moment over the weekend where you couldn't take advantage of playing another team that was below 500, another team that was in a similar spot as you. You weren't playing the Dodgers. You weren't playing the Mets, the Phillies, the Cubs, the Brewers, the Yankees. You weren't playing a top team. You were playing a team in the same bucket as you. You lost the first 2 games of this series. You got walked off on. You couldn't meet the moment. You couldn't go into the All-Star break with some huge momentum leading into easily now the series of the year when you start the second half against the St. Louis Cardinals, needing all 3 of those games if you are going to push this off for another couple of days. But how could you at this point? These bad losses continue to pile up, continue to show up at the worst possible time. So that leads me to wanting to have a conversation about Mike Hazen. Because this is Mike Hazen's chance to meet the moment. This is Mike Hazen's chance to take what is a bad, awful, terrible, no good. What's that book? The children's book? I think it's a Dr. Seuss book. The terrible, no good, bad.
Oh, yes.
Go to that computer that you have because you got 14 screens in there and you Google it and you tell me what it is. And I don't think this is the first time I've done this bit, but I don't remember what the title of the book is. But whatever the title of the book is, that's how I would describe this season for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Awful, terrible, no good, very bad, something. It's something along those lines. That doesn't mean it has to stay that way. It doesn't mean that this entire year needs to be thrown in the toilet and flushed.
Are you talking about Alexander and the terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day?
Yeah. How about the very bad season for the Arizona Diamondbacks? Yes.
The Diamondbacks and the terrible, horrible, no good, very bad season.
Yes, exactly. That's how I would describe it. It was a Dr. Seuss book, right?
It is not Dr. Seuss.
Not Dr. Seuss.
It is Judith Viorst.
I have no idea. I thought for sure that was a Dr. Seuss book. I don't know why I remember it then. But either way, the point still stands. It doesn't have to stay that way. Mike Hazen can meet the moment and turn something very, very negative into something very, very positive. Because if you trade Eugenio Suarez, if you trade Josh Naylor, if you trade one of the pitchers, and you get back a return that sets you up well for 2026, all hope is not lost. Because let's talk about the reality of what being a seller at the deadline means outside of just the players that you are going to lose. It will then be a second season in which you saw the payroll increase, but the results not meet that reinvestment. Let's go back into the time machine for a second. 2023, the Arizona Diamondbacks sneak into the playoffs, and they go on a miraculous run to the World Series, shocking us all, getting to the World Series, playing the Texas Rangers, and having a chance to win another championship. They fall short, but they take us on a wild ride, a wonderful run. Everybody is excited, even though they lost, of the joy that the team brought them once the postseason began. Now, that could have just been a flash in the pan moment for this organization. That could have been a once-in-a-lifetime miracle run, and nothing could have changed. But instead, this owner, this organization, this front office chose to take the proceeds, the profits, the revenue generated, all of those home playoff games, all of that playoff television revenue by making it to the World Series, each round getting those big checks. And they decided to take that money and reinvest it into the team to balloon the payroll to $170 million. doubling down. Hey, we made it to the World Series. Instead of just being happy to be here, happy-go-lucky, just running it back and hoping that it works out again, no. We're going to take the profits, we're going to reinvest in the team, and we're going to give it another go in 2024. And we all know how last year went on a tiebreaker, not making it into the postseason. I thought that was it. I thought that was where the house of cards was going to come crumbling down because we can pull the footage, we can pull the tapes. I, on this program, said there is no way that the payroll is going to stay at the levels that it was in 2024. I've just seen the way this team has operated in this market since moving here. I did not expect them, after not making the playoffs, after not having more playoff revenue to be able to stick into the bank account, that they were going to keep the money that high. Well, I was kind of right because they went higher. The highest payroll in franchise history this year to the tune of $190+ million. But for 2 straight years, there has been that reinvestment. And for 2 straight years, there is not going to be the playoff revenue to recoup, to make this team whole, to capitalize on that reinvestment, to keep the investment rolling. So we all know, and I feel pretty safe in doubling down on this prediction going into 2026. This payroll is coming down next season. Now, normally, the payroll decreasing goes hand in hand with a team no longer competing, a team no longer trying, a team no longer thinking that their competitive window is open. This is where Mike Hazen needs to meet the moment, because that doesn't have to be true in this case. Why? Because Ketel Marte is locked up long-term. Geraldo Perdomo is locked up long-term. I know he's not going to contribute for most of next season. Justin Martinez is locked up long-term. Brendan Pfaadt is locked up long-term. Gabby Moreno potentially could be next to be locked up long-term. Corbin Burns is under contract for the foreseeable future. There are a lot of hard costs already associated with the budget for the next couple of years. The core is in place. You don't have to worry about Ketel Marte's contract coming due while you're bringing the payroll down. He's already going to be a part of the payroll coming down. And so if you meet the moment, if you're Mike Hazen, and you get players here at this deadline that can fill some of the holes on this roster that this team is going to have going into next year. I don't know if Jordan Lawler is going to stick as the third baseman of this team. I do know they're going to give it every chance for him to be the everyday third baseman next season. So you're going to need a first baseman going into next year. I think you're going to need at least one outfielder going into next year. You're going to need a couple of starting pitchers going into next year. If you are able to fill those holes by prioritizing those positions in your return for Josh Naylor, for Eugenio Suarez, for one of the pitchers that you trade, if you can prioritize close to big league ready prospects, maybe not ready for 2025, but ready for the start of, if not the middle of 2026, or if you can get prospects that are ready to go and are just landlocked in their current situations, then 2026, even though the payroll is going to come down, even though it's going to feel different around this team, nothing about the expectations needs to feel different. We could start 2026 thinking that this team is in a position to compete for a wild card spot, because that's where the shifting expectations need to move to. This year, dreams have taken it to the Dodgers. Dreams of going toe-to-toe, 12-round championship fight with the Dodgers and being the underdog and pulling off the upset. Making the playoffs, making noise. That was the expectation for this year. The expectation for next year is a roster that when opening day starts, we think when August of 26, when September of 26 rolls around, we think this team is going to be in the middle of a playoff battle. And so Mike Hazen can make all of that possible if he can meet the moment. If he can understand that 2026 is not lost because 2024 and 2025 went the way that they did. That 2026 doesn't have to be a tear-down transitional year for this team, as long as he attacks this trade deadline successfully. And he can parlay that success into an offseason where, with whatever limited money he has available to him, he can address those moves on the margin, maybe make a trade here or there to add a starter or an extra depth piece, however the roster looks when we get to the winter. If he's able to do that, there is no reason that when spring rolls around of 2026, that we're not talking about a team that should be right center in the mix of the NL wildcard race. That work starts today. That work starts July 31st, 2025. So for those out there who think by trading Naylor and by trading Suarez and by trading one of the pitchers that you're punting on 2026, that you're giving up, that your next true competitive window is 2027, I say you're wrong. I say that you are underestimating this core that the Diamondbacks have put together, and you are underestimating what Mike Hazen is going to be able to do. What if in these trades that he makes, he adds one starter for next year's rotation? He adds a first baseman for next year's lineup. He adds another starter that might be close and could contribute late or in the middle of 2026. And then he can go into the offseason with a much better idea of where his roster currently sits. What if he can make that happen now to where he has less needs to fill this offseason? This is why I keep saying the priority for Mike Hazen needs to be on close to, if not already ready, big league prospects. If you do that, we're going to continue to use this phrase, meet the moment, 2026 doesn't have to be a lost season.
This is an opportunity to put yourself as a competitive baseball team. And if you can get yourself a pitcher that can start in your rotation, a starting first baseman or outfielder, if you can find two starters or significant impact players, and significant makes it sound like you need one. So no, you need to find impact players.
Contributors.
You find 2 to 3. What a home run that trade deadline was. And I know what you're saying. You're losing 4. I get that. But you know what you would get for them? Compensation picks who you wouldn't see till June or July, even if you drafted them.
Right.
And then you have to put them through the minor league system.
You want to call 2026 a lost season. That's exactly what you do if you don't trade these guys right now. Because, yeah, you can get compensatory picks, but then you're using those picks in the 2026 MLB draft. And, oh, by the way, it's probably at least 4 seasons before those guys that you draft are able to contribute. We're going to wait around 2030? No. You still have a competitive window right now. Yes. The financials about this organization are going to dramatically change this offseason. That is a given. The way you still operate with those changing financials is you get a Spencer Jones from the New York Yankees in a trade for Eugenio Suarez. That's a starting outfielder next season. That's somebody that immediately goes into your lineup. Because, oh, by the way, and I'm going to hit the drop again, because now what's going to happen when this guy gets at bats every single day? Maybe he's the player that he is down in Reno. I know he's hurt right now, but maybe he starts playing to the back of his baseball card and plays up to his potential. Oh, yeah, Drew Jones is right around the corner. Did you see, by the way, they had Troy playing center field over the weekend?
I did see that.
That's interesting. One of their top prospects who's never played out there before, playing out there over the weekend. Again, all of these, I think, are moves on the chessboard setting up for 2026.
Because, again, I think over the last week, they've had the chance to kind of step back and say, okay, where are we? What do we need? And when you start looking forward to 2026, you start making those moves. You start making those minor adjustments that can put you in a position for next year and the year after.
Brian from Chandler over on the KDUS AM 1060 YouTube live stream says, what you're describing is punting 2026. Here are the 2 choices that the Diamondbacks have. And this is why I disagree that this is punting on 2026. They have 2 choices. Here are the 2 choices that the Diamondbacks have right now. Because I know everybody thinks there's a third choice, but that third choice isn't a reality. And it's my job here on this program to tell you when that reality doesn't exist. The 2 choices they have: trade these guys at the deadline, get something back that can help them speed this process up and be relevant in 2026, and then flow it into 2027. Option 2 is to not do anything. Let the season run its course. Get your qualifying offers, your compensatory picks for the players that are going to leave in free agency, and watch those players go play someplace else. There is not this dream third fantasy land where these guys come back, where you run it back with Josh Naylor, where you run it back with Eugenio Suarez, where you run it back with Merrill Kelly and Zach Allen. That world doesn't exist. That world doesn't exist because you've missed the playoffs the last 2 seasons while running up the payroll. It doesn't work that way. I know you don't want it to work that way. I know you want the Arizona Diamondbacks to spend $200, $215, $220 million to field a competitive team. That's not the way things work around here. That reality doesn't exist. You want that reality to exist? Then this team needed to make the playoffs this year. This team needed to go to the postseason, go on a run, get those playoff dollars. Then you can keep the payroll this high and keep those players around if you want. But missing the playoffs for 2 straight seasons means a financial reckoning is coming to this organization. Mike Hazen, meeting the moment means get ahead of it. Understand that this winter, you're not going to be really active. So guess what? Be active now with the pieces that can help you in 2026. There is not a third. You're living in fantasy land if you think that the right thing and a thing that's actually possible for the Arizona Diamondbacks is for them to just run it back next season. You're living in a fantasy land. What about this organization in its history tells you that that's on the table? There's nothing. The reason why the payroll's gone up the last 2 years is because they reinvested the money from the World Series team. And then Ken Kendrick gave you a mulligan on 2024 and said, in his head, he's probably thinking, I should bring the payroll back down because we don't have the postseason money from this year. But you know what? I'm going to give a freebie, a mulligan. I'm going to increase the payroll by $20 million. I'm going to let you go out and get Corbin Burns, even though we signed Jordan Montgomery, because that one's on me. That mistake's on my ledger, not yours, Mike Hazen. And guess what? They're not going to sniff the postseason. So the financial reckoning is right around the corner. That's the way this is going to go. I'm sorry. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but there is no dreamland. There is no fantasy land. This is not Disney World where all your dreams come true. Those players are not coming back next season. It is financially impossible for this organization to pull that off.